I remember the exact moment I realized something was seriously wrong. I was sitting in my car in the work car park, engine off, just staring at the steering wheel. It was 8:45 in the morning. I had just driven 20 minutes from home, and I genuinely could not remember a single second of that drive. Not one turning, not one traffic light, nothing. I had been awake for almost 2 hours. I had drunk a full cup of coffee, and I was already completely checked out. Not tired in the normal way. I mean the kind of tired where your body is technically moving through the world, but your mind has already given up. That was the morning I decided I needed answers. Not advice from Instagram, not a sleep hack from some wellness account. Actual answers about my own sleep. What was happening inside those 8 hours I was supposedly resting? Why was I waking up feeling worse than when I went to bed? So I bought a basic sleep tracker, and I made myself one promise. I would log every single night for 30 days, and I would not change anything else. No new routines, no early bedtimes forced on myself. Just data. If you have ever woken up exhausted and thought, I got enough hours, why does this keep happening? Then what I found over those 30 days might change how you look at sleep completely. Because what I discovered was not what I expected. And honestly, some of it was quite uncomfortable to face. The first thing the data showed me, and this hit harder than I thought it would, was that I was almost never reaching deep sleep before midnight. Night after night, the graph was flat. I would fall asleep around 11, and the tracker would show light sleep, a little REM, but almost nothing in that deep, restorative zone until well after 1 in the morning, sometimes 2. I had always thought sleep was sleep. You close your eyes, you drift off, job done. But the data told a completely different story. The science behind this is well established. The deepest stage of sleep, the stage where your body repairs itself, consolidates memories, and resets your energy for the next day, happens most in the first few hours of the night. If something is stopping you from dropping into that deep stage quickly, you are losing recovery time you cannot get back later. I had been doing this for years without knowing it. Here is something small you can try tonight. Not a full routine overhaul, just one thing. At least 90 minutes before you want to be asleep, switch off anything with a screen. Not dim it. Off. I know you have heard this before. I had heard it too, and I ignored it. But when I looked at my own data on the nights I stopped screens early versus the nights I did not, the difference was visible and consistent. The light from phones, laptops, and tablets sends a signal to your brain that it is still daytime. That single signal can push your whole sleep cycle hours later than it should be. On screen nights, deep sleep came late, sometimes not at all in the first half of the night. On no-screen nights, it came much earlier. Same person, same bed, same everything else. But here is where it got more interesting. Because what I found next was something I had never even considered. Around day 12, I noticed a pattern in the data that had nothing to do with how long I slept. I was waking up, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 times a night, and I had no memory of it in the morning. The tracker was logging these micro-awakenings, and I was completely unaware they were happening. I thought I was sleeping through the night. I was not. I was surfacing just enough to break the cycle, falling back under, and waking up in the morning convinced I had slept solidly. I started cross-referencing the nights with the most disruption against what I had eaten late in the evening. The pattern was immediate. On nights I had eaten a heavy meal close to bedtime, particularly anything rich or starchy in the 2 hours before sleep, the fragmented nights were almost guaranteed. I had always assumed a full stomach meant I would sleep more deeply. The data said the opposite. Your body is still actively working to digest a heavy meal when you are trying to rest. That internal activity keeps pulling you out of the deeper stages of sleep without you ever knowing it is happening. That realization was hard, because it was not about willpower or discipline. It was about genuinely not knowing what was happening inside my body while I thought I was resting. And I think a lot of people are in the same position. Not lazy, not making bad choices on purpose, just operating without the information they need. Here is the small action for this one. For just 1 week, not forever, just 7 nights, try to finish your last big meal at least 2 hours before you plan to sleep. If you need something in the evening, keep it light. Just observe the difference. You do not need anything other than paying attention to how you feel the next morning. By day 20, I had found 2 more patterns I want to tell you about, because I think at least one of them will sound very familiar. The first one I already suspected but had never confirmed. Stress was directly affecting my sleep in a way that hours in bed could not compensate for. On high-stress workdays, the kind where your mind is still running problem-solving loops at 10 o'clock at night, the restorative stages of my sleep were almost absent in the first sleep cycle. There is solid research behind this. The part of sleep responsible for processing the emotional weight of your day depends on your nervous system being calm enough to allow it. When you carry unresolved stress into bed, your brain stays partially activated through the night. You wake up with yesterday's tension still sitting in your body. You start the new day already behind. And then that day becomes stressful too, and the cycle continues. The second pattern was something I had completely dismissed as irrelevant for years. My sleep quality on nights I had moved my body, even just a 30-minute walk, was measurably better. Not a little better, consistently, noticeably better. More deep sleep, fewer disruptions, higher readiness score the next morning. I had told myself I was too tired to move. The data was telling me I was too tired because I was not moving. That is a cruel little loop that I had been stuck in without even realizing it. A practical note on the movement 1. The timing matters more than I expected. On nights where I had been physically active late in the evening, close to bedtime, the benefit was smaller or sometimes reversed. Earlier in the day worked consistently better for my sleep data. A large study that tracked over 4 million nights of real sleep data found that any strenuous activity finishing within 4 hours of your planned bedtime tended to push sleep onset later and reduce overall quality. If you are going to try one thing from everything I have shared, start with a 30-minute walk and make sure you finish it at least 4 hours before you plan to sleep. Now, I want to be completely honest with you about what the 30 days did and did not change, because I think false promises are part of the reason people give up on this stuff. By the end of the month, my average deep sleep had increased. Not dramatically, but it was moving in the right direction. My disrupted nights had reduced significantly when I applied what I had learned. My readiness scores were trending upward. I was still tired some mornings. This was not a transformation. This was a start. But the fog I had been living in for years, there were days where it genuinely lifted. Days where I sat in that same car park and I could actually remember the drive in. That sounds small. For me, it was everything. What did not change? My sleep is still not perfect. Late nights still cost me. Stressful weeks still wreck my rest. I am still working on this. I am not fixed. I am quietly getting there. The biggest thing I took from 30 days of data was this. I had been trying to solve my sleep problem with more hours in bed, earlier alarms, longer weekends sleeping in. None of it worked because I was focusing on the wrong thing entirely. It was never about quantity. It was always about quality. And quality is something you can actually influence once you know what is breaking it. If you are going to take one thing away from everything I have shared today, let it be this. Stop guessing. Even 7 days of simple notes, bedtime, wake time, how you feel in the morning, what you ate the night before, will start to show you patterns that no generic sleep advice ever could. Your sleep is personal. The answers are in your own data. If something here helped even a little, subscribe. We are just getting started. And leave a comment. What is the one thing draining your energy most right now?